Hey, what's up everybody? It's Alex Anselm here with Anselm Tennis. Welcome to a new video. We're gonna try today to attempt to show you a little bit how you can take stats for your players when they're playing in matches, whether it's competitive or just a practice match. It could be for a coach, could be for a parent. Whoever wants to use this, feel free. I just think that I'm doing this video because in my experience over the last 20 years of teaching tennis, I feel like this is super underutilized, and this is something that I like to use a lot. This is something that my dad used to do for me as well, and that I thought really helped me a lot as a junior player, developing and trying to understand my game, my strengths, my weaknesses. And the truth is that you're probably not seeing too many folks taking stats for their players' matches, and so the problem with that is that we're making a lot of decisions based more on intuition and gut feeling rather than facts and numbers. And gut feeling and intuition, you have to know how to listen to that and use that as well. But stats and numbers simply don't lie. You can't ignore them, and sometimes they'll really illuminate things a lot clearer for you and especially for the player. So today what I'm going to show you is mostly how to take stats for the server, because serving is a very important statistic in tennis. And I'm talking outside of the professional level here, because at the pro level, the stat taking is obviously a lot more complex, and now we have smart courts that give us information and an amount of data, which is there's quite a bit of data in all the pro matches that come out of it. So this is not necessarily designed to a pro match. Again, this is designed maybe for junior players or amateur players who are just trying to get an idea, if they don't already, as to what their serve performance is like during the match. Okay, so there are probably one of the most important statistics that you're going to want when you're looking for when you're playing a tennis match is your first serve percentage. Now, it really doesn't matter what style of play you have. If you have more of an attacking game or more of a defensive kind of game, your first serve percentage is going to be huge. The benchmark on that is 50%. We always want to be serving over 50% first serves, when regardless of what kind of style of play we are. Now, obviously, if you take different player styles, you're going to see that well, maybe for a player like Nadal, if we're going to use the pros, Nadal's going to have a higher first serve percentage in general than a lot of other players, because he doesn't go for as much risk or as much power on his serve. So for him, a good first serve percentage might be 65-70%. Another player with maybe a big serve who takes a lot of risks, maybe 55 to 60% is a good range for them. So then there's not exactly a number that can fit in. That can depend a little bit on your game style, but the benchmark really is the 50% mark on your first serve percentage. Okay, so I'm going to show you 3 levels so that you can kind of apply to what you feel. If you just want like a basic picture and all you want to know, for example, is first serve percentage and maybe aces and double faults, here's how we're going to do it. All right, so I've got 3 columns. I've got the score here. I don't know if you can tell. First serve and second serve. So this is how I will note the stats in a match if a player is playing. So let's imagine this is the first game of the match. I write that the score is 0-0. And let's imagine that our player is serving first. All right, they won the toss. They chose to serve, so they're going to serve first. If the point starts with the first serve, I jot that it came down as a first serve. If the point starts with a second serve, I jot that it came down over here. I don't write that I missed a first serve. I just jot down that the point started with a second serve. Okay? And I also put in an O if it happens to be an ace, and an X over here if it happens to be a double fault. All right, now if you just do that and you follow the lines on each game, let's imagine this game looks like this. All right, so there were 6 points played. 3 of them started with first serves, 3 of them started with second serves. We've got 1 ace, we've got 1 double. So you can see that just by doing it like this, I can have first serve percentage, aces, double faults, second serve percentage as well, but the second serve percentage is more tied into like the number of double faults. So right here, this is the most basic way you can do it, okay? By level, and you can just go down game by game, just jot down each service game like this so that you can see what your first serve percentage is. And with this info right here, you'll be able to see if you've got a better first serve percentage, for example, in the first set or in the second set. Maybe there's a game that you got broken. You're gonna see you didn't put any first serves in. Okay, there's your, there's your answer. But I like to go generally a little bit deeper than this. This is usually what I'm going to do. I'll take these kinds of stats for a player, maybe an under 10 level player or under 12, who's maybe still really struggling with their serve and who just hits too many double faults in a match. And it's nice, you can tell them, and they probably realize that you've got too many double faults in the match. But when you get them to realize that, hey, for example, how many points does it take to win a set? Well, 6 times 4, you're gonna need a minimum of 24 points to win a set. If you hit 10 double faults in that set, you're giving half of the set away, and that kind of shocks the player a little bit more than, just coming out of the match and going like, yeah, I hit too many double faults. That's a little bit more vague when I know I gave him 10 free points in the first set off of double faults, and ended up with 16 total in a match or something. We realized that that's too much, and we gotta correct that second serve if we want to have the results we want in matches. Okay, so that's what I'll use for a basic player. Maybe this is for a player who just double faults too much, and or who just is not at 50% first serves in most of the matches they play, and so you're gonna get them to realize that if you're starting only 3 or 4 points out of 10 on a first serve instead of 5, 6, or 7. The match is a lot harder to win, obviously. All right. The next level, as you can see, this is already good. This is good information to have, but it doesn't tell us the whole picture, and we can get a lot more detailed without that much work right over here. So let me show you how this would work. Right here, I know that, okay, I just have the first serve percentage, like I said. Let's imagine here that now we're serving at 1-1. All right, I'm gonna use the same pattern. So look, I'm gonna use the same pattern. Basically 3 serves, or 3 points started with the first serve, 3 points started with the second serve. Now what I'm gonna do here, the next very important stat, and especially more so for players who have big serves, is going to be your percentage of points won on first serves. So how are we gonna determine that? Well, all I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna add a little dot on top of the point that was won or lost. So let's say that here I've got 1, 2, 3. I won all 3 points when I made my first serve. Okay? This point I didn't win, so it doesn't have a dot over it. An X is an X, so I don't need to mark a dot over it. I know that I lost the point here because that's a double fault. And let's just say that I won this one right here. All right? So now all of a sudden, beyond just having first serve percentage, aces, and double faults, I also know the results of the game. Did I win this game? Did I lose the game? Etc. In this case, I won the game. Obviously, I won 4 points. I lost 2. So I'm going to put a dot over here, and that's going to tell me also that I won that service game. All right. So this second level of depth in terms of taking the stats will give you first serve percentage, aces, double faults. It will also give you first serve percentage points won, second serve percentage points won, which is very important as well. As we go up higher in levels and we're looking more into details as to what we can gather from this data to improve. All right, I like to generally go a third layer deeper here when taking stats for servers. So like I say, this is maybe more for advanced players, but if I'm taking stats for a player who's already fairly accomplished, I go a level deeper than this, and look how the story changes and how much more info you have just by doing it like this. And I'll show you a couple different examples so you're going to see how it can really vary. How this pattern of, for example, 3 first serves, 3 second serves with 1 ace, 1 double fault, 4 points, 1 out of 6. Yes, this tells us more of a story than the first one, but what I like to do here, especially if I want a little more detail, then I'm going to separate out each point right over here. All right, so I'll just column these points right here, and I'm going to jot the score down of that point up on the top over here. So let's imagine that here, for example, I served at 0-0. All right. So I know this is the first point of the game. I hit a first serve in, and I won the point. All right. Let's say that this one right here was at 15 love. All right. So I'm up 15 love. I missed my first serve. I start the point with a second serve. I did not win this point, so now the score will be 15 all. Let's imagine that this one right here was the 15 all point. All right, I hit an ace, I win the point, obviously, so now I go up 30-15, let's say. And it doesn't have to, it's not necessarily gonna go in this order. You'll see how when I show the second version. 30-15, I come here, I hit a double fault, all right? So here I am at 30 all. I hit a first serve, I win the point. And here I am at 40-30, and I hit a second serve in and I win the point, so I win the game over here. I put a little dot to let me know that I held serve right over here. Now, do you see how as soon as I go a little bit more in depth, and sorry if you can't really see too well, but hopefully me talking over it allows you to kind of understand what I'm doing over here. This story shows that, look how much more information I have here. 3 points started with the first serve, all 3 of them were on the deuce side. And these right here were all on the ad court. So right away, also I have a little bit of information. I can differentiate. Geez, I'm 100% first serves on the deuce court. I'm 0% on the ad court, even though I'm 50% globally. So I'm a little bit more in tuned and in detail right over here. Also, I noticed that I hit a double fault after I hit an ace. All right, maybe did I lose my concentration here? Who knows? Okay, this is just one example. But now, as you take several games, you're gonna get anywhere maybe from like 6 to 12 games or more that you're going to take stats for your player in while they're in a match. And if you see the same pattern recurring fairly often, like, geez, I'm much better serving on the deuce side than the ad side, there's something you wouldn't have gotten that picture necessarily just doing it by the first 2 levels over here. And look here, let's imagine the score is 3-3. And I can come over here and look, if I use this same pattern, look at how different the story is if it's like this. Okay, so I take the columns, I go back over here. What if it's 0-0 over here? 0-0, first point of the game, I miss my first serve, and it's a second serve point that I lose. Okay, and then here, this is the point that I hit at love 15. All right. And now this is I won the point with the first serve. Here I'm at 15 all. I lose the point with the double. Here I'm at 15-30. Okay, I hit an ace, I come back. So now I'm at 30 all. 30 all is over here. And I hit a second serve, I win the point. 40-30 on the ad court, first serve in, and I win the point. So you can see that right here, even though it's the same format, I've got a bar with a dot with an ace and a bar with a dot to bar with no dot to an X to a bar with a dot. It's the same thing, but you can see how all 3 examples here are telling a completely different picture as to what's going on in the service game. Okay, so quick side note, I'm showing you this right here and how to do this kind of. What I want to show everybody how to do is to just how you're going to take stats for serve with nothing but a piece of pen or a pencil and paper. All right, there are great apps that exist to take stats and for your players. I've personally bought and used Tennis Tracker Pro quite a bit. However, I don't use it as often as I thought I would because, one, I know that when I'm taking statistics for a player in their matches, I already know kind of what I'm looking for. I know that I'm looking for serve performance, or I know that I'm looking to try and illustrate to the player that they make too many unforced errors on their backhand wing, for example. Or I'm trying to illustrate to a player how they are not having any success when they're moving forward coming to the net. Or I'm trying to explain to a player how they play a point very well, but they're not closing out the point well. So generally when I'll take the stats will be used to either prove or disprove the intuition that you have before. And I don't need a whole global picture of everything that happened in that match, which is great because that's what you can do with like Tennis Tracker Pro. But that is a very big commitment in terms of taking the stats and all the details of when you're taking the match. And a lot of times you're not going to need all that information, and it might be a little bit overwhelming for you at first if you're trying to take stats and try and improve through this method. So I recommend just trying to focus on one aspect and then going after that. And honestly, I mean, maybe, I don't know, I'm 37, I'm a little bit older now, so I'm a little old school in this way. I do it like this. This is how my dad did it for me. This is how I just got used to doing it. And you can fancy this up on an Excel sheet or other ways too. You can do that. But I like to do it just like you have no excuse. You know, if you have a pencil and a paper, you can do this, and you know you can gather all this information. Okay. The third level. What do I like about this third level? This comes in more at advanced players because, like I said, first level of depth here, first serve percentage, aces, double faults. Here I can also have first serve percentage points 1, second serve percentage points 1. By adding the score in over here, what's really important is now I'm going to look at how my player is performing under pressure or in pressure points, all right? So pen and paper is the way to go. Usually you'll have some space on the side here where you can write down little notes or little comments if there's anything in particular you want to remember about this game. But also what it'll allow you to do is that when you go back here and you analyze, you can go back, for example, and look at the break point conversion rate or game point conversion rate. All right, see how the player handles himself in a pressure situation. You can then take all of this data right here, for example, and calculate the first 3 points of a service game compared to the last 3 points of a service game, and see if there's any difference right there. If you feel like you saw that pattern while you're taking the stats for the match. So you can get really a lot of information by just doing this basic. Sorry for the reflection. By just doing this kind of basic level of stat taking right here. This is something I think anybody can do. And that's very clear, okay? So beyond that, I'll give a little brief input as to sometimes how you take stats for, yes, like elite level players or anything like that. Beyond having a pen or pencil and paper, the next thing you might want to have is a highlighter, all right? And what I'm going to do is, if I'm going through, I'm going to highlight certain points that I thought were really key in the match. And maybe at the end of the day, I want to have 3 to 5 little spots that were highlighted, and we can go back and we can see, like, hey, do you remember here at 40-30 what you did, where you put this second serve, what allowed you to win this point? Because in the beginning of the game, you didn't have much success on the ad court, so you know you didn't make your first serve, but you managed to get by here. I don't know, that might not be the best example, but the idea is I can highlight any specific areas that I want of the match to come back to later for the analysis. All right, so highlighter would be the next thing you would want to add in there if you want to go even a level deeper. The next level deeper again is to have either a 4-color pen like this, or sometimes generally I just bring 4 different color pens with me as well if I need to take stats for a player who's pretty high level and I need a little bit more detail than just this, okay? And then what I will do is I will color code some of this, again, depending on what I'm looking for exactly. The key to taking stats and the key to analyzing the data is to know what you're looking for, because otherwise the data can be overwhelming, and if you try and look at everything and go from there, it's going to be overwhelming. It's going to discourage you from using this method, and you're not really going to get anything out of it. When you focus your attention on what it is that you want to learn about, this can be extremely productive for you, okay? So let me show you one example of a way as to maybe how I might color code a point using a similar system, okay? Because there's a lot more that you can do with this. After this, you just have to kind of use your imagination, okay? Let's say that I'm gonna play, I want to look at what you see a lot of in pro tennis. Let's say I want to look at all the points that were 3 shots or less and all the points that were 4 shots or more. So maybe if 3 points or less, I will just do the same notation here. But if it's 3 shots or less, I'm gonna note it in green. And if it's 4 shots or more, I'll note it in red. The cutoff doesn't need to be 3 or 4 shots. It can be. It can be whatever it is that you think that you need to look for, okay? Another way you can go here, yeah, I'm trying not to get too much glare for you. I'm going to show you a little bit of a level deeper as well here, to show you also how you can use this same system for return a serve, but not necessarily for just serve. You can do serve and return. More often, I will choose to just do serve than serve and return, but I can do serve and return sometimes as well too. The other thing which you can do here is, instead of just noting a bar or an X or an O, you can note the location of the serve. So for example, I can have wide T body. Okay? In this example right here, let's use the same thing. So 3 first serves went in. Okay, this is the ad chord. Let's imagine my player is a little bit predictable. They just kick their second serve to the backhand over here each time. So I've got 3 serves that went out wide. I won this one over here. Okay, that can be a little bit more detailed over there with as well. Maybe I can have a score 0-0. This is love 15. This is 15 all. Oh, wide double fault. So wide double fault here, if I'm doing the direction, then I do have to note an X on top over there to note that I hit a double fault right here. Now, nothing over the wide serve here means that I made the wide serve and I lost the points. An X above the W means I hit a wide serve and I missed that serve. That was a double fault. Here I hit a wide serve and I won the points. So I can have a little bit more detail like that. WT or B or however you want to letter it instead of symboling it can come in useful. I've done this, for example, for players who just don't realize that they're hitting more than half of their second serves, for example, to the player's forehand. And that's not the strategy they want because the player's backhand is weaker. So maybe they don't realize that they're doing it. Maybe they don't have the capacity to do it. Who knows? But when we see the stats and you see the matches and you're thinking, geez, 60% of the points on second serves are starting on their forehands and you're only winning 20% of the points when you hit a second serve in. Okay, we need to fix that. We need to get second serves into the backhand side. Obviously, that's not the case right here. Here I'm saying that they served wide every time, but it's just an example as to why we want to put in serve location as well as not just whether the serve was in or out. So we can do that. And you can also use the colors to code it in that way as well. I would usually put a little dot over here when I win the game, etc. All right. Now I can also do this for return a serve. So imagine I'm serving and it's I'm returning and it's 5-4. Here generally what I can do, I can either use wide T or body to give the serve location as well, or if I'm just looking to that first example would be good. Let's say if you're not just using stats to take stats for yourself and your own performance, but you're using this to analyze your opponent's way of play as well, so that maybe next time you play them, you know that, oh geez, do you see every single time it's a pressure point or it's a conversion point, that means one player is 1 point away from winning the game or the set or the match. The serve always goes down the tee. Okay, that's, for example, that's a huge piece of information that you could use for maybe the next time you play this opponent. So when returning, it's going to be the same thing. You can use YT body. You can note that the server just made a first serve, or you can also just note kind of forehand or backhand, right? It was a forehand or backhand return with, again, winning the point or losing the point. Well, actually, in this case, a lot of times when the first serve comes in, we're probably not going to win as many points here. So maybe I won the point when they served to my forehand. Here they served to my backhand, 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 okay, and here maybe I won 2 out of the 3 points when they served to my backhand. I can add the score up above here. This point was at 0-0, this point was at love 15, etc. When you do note the score, however, make sure that you've decided whether you're going to note the score the way it's supposed to always be noted, that is server's score first, or whether you're noting it from your point of view. So, you know, like here, for example, if you look at 0-0, I'm noting it, and actually I did a little contradictory in this line here, but 0-0, the player served a first serve to my forehand, I won the point. When the other player is serving at love 15, because that's love 15 with them serving, so I know I'm up 15 love, the server score is love 15. They hit a second serve to my backhand and they won the point, so now it's 15 all. Maybe 15 all is over here. First serve to my backhand, I lost the point, etc. So here actually, if I want it to be uniform, I'm up 5-4 because I won the game at 4 all, so the opponent is actually serving at 4-5. That's how I should write it here. You can write it however you want. Obviously, the key is to just be consistent, not writing it once from your point of view and once from the opponent's point of view, because then the score will mean nothing. It's like love 15. Does that mean I have 15 or my opponent has 15? I don't know. That obviously needs to be clear if you want to be able to determine whether whether you yourself or your opponent is doing well in pressure points. Okay. So there you have it. I don't know if there's much more to add on top of this. I think this, for anybody who doesn't take stats already, will already help you a lot. Okay. In my experience, honestly, this has more value than technical teaching or technical learning or anything like that, okay? Because this really gets you to understand what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what you should be working on the practice court, what you're good at when you're playing under pressure in matches, and what you need to get better at as well. So it helps formulate your practice strategy, what you're gonna try and work on, and all those kinds of things, okay? So if I forget something, I'll try and maybe add it on into the in editing or something, and then just and go from there. I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anything, but honestly, I think this is already a pretty good picture. I hope you guys can see it well enough. I know it's a little ghetto. I'm not really set up for this, but maybe I'll do it again with a better setup and see if it makes it a little bit clearer. So yeah, but please, honestly, try and do this, because in my opinion, this is so underutilized. Look at the pros. These guys pay out the nose to get stats and data collected upon their opponents, because they know at the pro level, 1 to 2 points difference in a match can make all the difference, okay? I know the example I just heard recently as well is a player like Gilles Simon has a win percentage points in his career of 52%, and a player like Rafael Nadal has a win percentage for his career of total points won at 54%. So there's a 2% difference. Nadal wins 2% more points than Gilles Simon, but that's 20 Grand Slams difference as well at the end of the day. So for the pros, this is huge, and that's why data analytics and everything is becoming a really mainstream thing at the pro level. And I wanted to make this because this is something that even 20-25 years ago my dad was already doing for me, that I've continued. My dad used to basically kind of just do this level 1 thing for me. After 20 years of coaching and everything, I elaborated a little bit to be like, you know, for not that much more effort, you can really get that much more into detail and have such a clear picture painted of your serve performance or your return performance or anything else, okay? Obviously, this is just about serve, but I would recommend that you do stats as well for anything else. If your player's making too many unforced errors on their backhand side or their forehand side or their volleys or their overheads, take stats. If you want to know how to do that, I can show you. It's pretty basic, pretty simple as well, but let me know maybe in the comments if that's something that interests you guys. And yeah, I think I'll leave it at that there for today, because that's been almost a half an hour already. So hope it helps, and until next time, it's Alex and Selm saying see you later.